Good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys. Hello, Mindel. How are you? How's everyone doing today? How's your week been so far? Welcome to Takeaway English class. Here's your teacher, Mary. I hope you're all doing great and are ready to level up your English today. We are learning relative clauses, right? Relative clauses. I hope you can hear me clearly and see everything properly. Great. Okay, so today, as promised, we are going to do some exercises, right? All about relative clauses. So if you are new here, if you are first time listener, we are learning relative clauses. During my previous live lessons, we covered all of the basics, starting from what is a relative clause, what does it mean, how can we use them, and when we can use them. I talked about their importance, right? In the book, you can find dialogues that show us why relative clauses are important and why we should learn them. We talked about nouns as well, right? Because relative clauses describe nouns. Noun could be a person, thing, place, time, position, people, animals. Right? We talked about pronouns as well. What are pronouns? Right? What are pronouns? What are verbs? Because I always tell my students that no matter what grammar topic you are learning, you should start from the part of speech in English. Okay? Parts of speech, these words are foundation of the language. If you already know what a verb is, what a noun is, what a pronoun is, it'd be easier to understand the rules and the structure of each sentence. If you are new here, there is a video on YouTube on the parts of speech in English where I explain everything about noun, pronoun, verb, prepositions, adverbs, adjectives, so you can go and watch them. Okay? Then I explained pronouns. We already know that these words work like pronouns when it comes to the relative clauses. Because when we build relative clauses, we need these words. But these words with the relative clauses don't function as question words. They are not question words. They work as pronouns. Pronouns like she, he, it, they, these words work like that. They are not question words. We are not asking questions using these words. Okay, so they are pronouns when it comes to the relative clauses. We covered all the relative pronouns and we've learned relative adverbs. They work in the same way as who, which, and that. Where, when, and why work exactly the same as who, which, that. Okay? Where describes places, when, time, why shows the reason. These words don't function like question words when it comes to the relative clauses. Okay? However, I don't want you to memorize complicated grammar terms. Just remember these words like relative words, okay? Relative words. In the book, you will find nouns, different categories of nouns. And here we have all the relative words, okay? These words we can use when building relative clauses. They are bridges. They help us build complex sentences, okay? And finally, we talked about the difference between defining relative clause and non-defining relative clause, right? Because if we don't know what is the difference, if we don't know the rules and the structures, when we speak, we might confuse the listener if we don't follow certain structures and rules. because I already told you with non-defining relative clauses, we use commas, right? Commas. Whereas with defining relative clause, we never use commas. Never. Okay? Because defining relative clause provides essential information, whereas non-defining provides additional information. Even when speaking, we don't pause when we provide essential information, whereas with additional information, there is a pause between small sentences. Okay? That's why we use commas. So if you provide commas with the defining relative clause, the story changes, okay? And again, if you are new here, guys, you can go to my YouTube channel and watch the videos where I explain everything from the beginning. The basics for beginners. How do I get your instructional book? You can go to my profile, my TikTok profile, and you can find my book there. All my books, materials I'm using during my live lessons, you can find in my profile. You can also find there my YouTube channel where you can watch all my previous live lessons. Okay? Again, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So we already covered all the basics, right? Then we went even further and covered the zero relative. The zero relative that helps us sound more natural and fluent, right? We talked about when we can use the zero relative, when we cannot use the zero relative, right? When there is a verb, when there is a pronoun. We covered each relative word, how, when we can use them. So again, for now, we are learning defining relative clauses, okay? Defining relative clauses. Again, what are they? They defining relative clauses provide essential information like a passport, right? Like a passport. This information helps us identify someone or something. Without this information, the listener won't understand who or what we are talking about. So this information is essential. And again, when using defining relative clause, we do not need commas in a sentence, okay? No comma. No comma. Okay, so let's do some exercises now. And See if you understood everything I've explained so far. Of course, if you were attending my previous live lessons, okay? We don't need a known function. Okay, let's start from the basics, okay? From the basics. We should find correct relative words for each sentence, okay? So look at the underlined noun. Choose the correct relative word from the box to complete the sentence. And again, as you can see here, it says no commas, okay? Okay, sentence number 1, and Mindel already has the answer. Who? Excellent. I met a girl who speaks 4 languages. Excellent. Number 2. Omar, excellent. Who? I met a girl who speaks 4 languages, because we use who for people. I liked the movie which, very well done, which we watched last night. Can I ask you something? Can I use here that as well and say I liked the movie that we watched last night? Can anyone tell me if I can use that here? Yes, very well done. Oh, hi, Alice. Yes, we can. So, however, guys, remember that we can use that only with the defining relative clauses, okay? That is the neighbor dog barks all night. Oh, excellent. Is it Omer? Very well done. Whose? Excellent. Well done, Mindel, Alice. It's whose, right? Okay, another question. Well, we know that here we can use who and that as well. The same goes with which. We can use which or that, but can we use here that? And say, that is the neighbor, that dog barks all night. What do you think? No. No, no. Great. We cannot, right? Okay, let's move on. Number 4. The bus goes to the airport is late. Great, Mendel. Which? Cassie, baby, which? Oma, thank you. That or which? Excellent. That or which? Both are correct. Which? Shabani, very well done. Number 5. The man lives next door is a famous pilot. Mendel, Alias, Casey, Omer, who? Excellent. Again, who or that, right? Both are correct. I saw a bird, had bright blue feathers. We have the verb had here, right? If there were no have or had, yeah, we could use whose, right? Since we have had, because we already know that these words, who, which, and that, work like he, she, or it. When we build normal sentences with he, she, it, we say he has, right? Or he had. So, which, I saw a bird, which works like it. It has, or it had, right? It had. So always think of which like he or it, or which like it, or who like he or she. When we build normal sentences, we say he had or it had, right? We don't say he's had, right? Because whose replaces his or its. Okay? So, if I write here whose, it would be its had, its belongs. Or, for example, let's say here we have someone, like a person, he had, his had, or her had. We don't say like that, right? So we only use whose when we want to replace his, her, its, not it, its, their, our, etc. Okay? Whose replaces these words, whereas which replaces it. Who replaces he, she, they, and so on. So I saw a bird which had bright blue feathers, okay? Number 7, what is a relative word? Relative words are who, which, whose, that, where, when, why. Okay. Do you know the boy whose mother? Very well done. Because whose replaces his, right? Do you know the boy whose mother, his mother is a doctor? So if we leave the normal sentence, it will be his mother is a doctor, right? So whose replaces his. The cake I'm sorry guys. Okay, what about now guys? Can you see everything? The cake which my mom baked was delicious. Or that, excellent. A chef is a person cooks food in a restaurant. Great, Casey, Omar, Mindel, very well done. Who? Chef is a person who or that cooks food in a restaurant. Okay, excellent. Okay. Okay, let's do exercise 11. Look at the bold word and the structure of the sentence. Fill in the blank with whom, who, that, which, that, or whose. Okay, number 3. This is the student's backpack was stolen. What do you think? Whose, excellent. Whose, right? Because it belongs to someone. Backpack belongs to the student. The person to I gave the gift was happy. Let's see if you can answer correctly. Someone said whom. Very well done. Whom. Casey, excellent. Guys, to those of you who doesn't know the rule how whom works. So usually nowadays people usually use who or that instead of whom, because who is used in formal speaking or writing, whom, whereas who or that still we can use who in formal writing or speaking, but in casual, in everyday situations, people usually use who or that, casual. Okay, but there are some rules that we should follow. If in the sentence we see a preposition in front of the relative word, we should use whom. Only the preposition can go in front of only whom. Okay? When we see preposition at the beginning, we should use whom. Even if who and that can be used instead of whom, when we have a preposition in front of the relative word, this is a relative word, right? Relative word, whom, right? And preposition to. When we see preposition in front of the relative word, we should use whom. If you want to use who or that, you should use the preposition at the end of the sentence. So instead of saying the person to whom I gave the gift was happy, you should say, if you want to use who or that, you should say the person who I gave the gift to was happy. So the person, first comes who or right? Who or that. The person who I gave the gift. The gift to. Now you see the preposition at the end was happy. Okay? So if we have preposition at the beginning, we use whom. If you want to use who or that, you should place the preposition at the end. The person who or that I gave the gift to was happy. However, with the whom, you can place the preposition wherever you want. You can say the person to whom I gave the gift was happy, or the person whom I gave the gift to was happy. So with whom, you have two options, whereas with who or that, you have only one option. You should place the preposition at the end. Okay? Is it clear? Omar, did you understand? Okay. So, again, the person, great. The person to whom, right? I gave the gift was happy. Excellent. I liked the movie we watched on Friday. I liked the movie we watched on Friday. which we watched or that we watched. Usually in American English, people with defining relative clauses use that and not which. However, both of them are correct when it comes to the defining relative clause, okay? You can use both. It's optional. You can use which as well as that. The woman fixed my car is very smart. Excellent. Who. The woman who or that fixed my car is very smart. Do you know the girl? Brother is famous. Do you know the girl? Brother is famous. Whose, right? Whose. Because here, if we leave normal sentence, will be her brother, right? So we should use whose. Whose. The doctor. Excellent. Marcellin. I'm going to pronounce it. Okay. Whom. Very well done. Excellent. Whom. Hello from Barcelona, but I'm going to pronounce it incorrectly. So Marcelin Grau, I'm sorry. Can I call you just Mar or something? Who? The doctor with... Oh, like in Italian, right? Mare. So it means the sea. Beautiful. The doctor with... Because we already know that when we have a preposition, we need whom. Can someone write this sentence with who or that? Well, here we already have with. We don't need another preposition. It's up to you. Both are correct. Like speak to or speak with. It depends on the context, right? Speak with or speak to. Right? When we already have with, we don't need to. The doctor with the doctor that I spoke to. And again, guys, these words, who, whom, which, I'm sorry, whom, that. These words replace pronouns such as he, she, it, him sometimes, okay, they, we, it, again. So when we use these words, we don't need he, she, it, him in the sentence anymore, okay? Because they already mean he, she, him, etc. Excellent. So the doctor, which, okay. The doctor, we need who, whom, or that, which only for animals and things, right? Then, the doctor whom I spoke, and we need a preposition. With whom, we can use the preposition in front or at the end. With who or that, only at the end, right? Again, guys. So, preposition. Where is the right one? Okay. Preposition, such as to, with, about, etc. Then comes whom, or we can use whom first, and at the end comes preposition. Okay, then. Okay, Mindel, you used the zero relative now, right? And the sentence is perfectly correct. The doctor spoke. With people, we don't use which. Okay, whom. So again, the doctor whom I spoke to was very helpful. Excellent, Casey. Very well done. But now, could you please write this sentence using who or that? Can someone use these words in this sentence? Definitely will. The doctor I spoke with was very helpful, excellent with a zero relative, right? The doctor that I spoke with or to, we need a preposition at the end, was very helpful. And we don't need two prepositions, right? The doctor with whom I spoke to was very helpful. Okay. So, again, guys. Very well done. The doctor who I spoke to was very helpful, right? And again, with whom with whom we have two options. We can put preposition here or at the end here, right? With that, or with who, or which, we put, no, wait, no, not with which, preposition goes at the end of the sentence, at the end of the relative clause. Who I spoke to was very helpful. Okay. However, again, whom is very formal, especially if you put preposition in front of whom. Exactly, we don't use whom nowadays, especially in everyday speech, in casual situations, we don't use whom, okay? But we should know how to use it, right? We should know how to use it. For example, in formal letters or in books, we can see whom. But nowadays, people usually use that or who. So if you use that or who, just remember using prepositions at the end, okay? And of course, guys, don't worry if you don't understand something. That's why I'm here. We are going to practice relative clauses every day, starting from Monday to Friday. And of course, you can always go to my YouTube channel, because during our previous live lessons, I explained everything step by step from the beginning, okay? Starting from what is the relative clause, when and how we can use them, the difference between defining and non-defining relative clauses. Okay. What else? Yeah, you can find there the basics for beginners. We already learned the zero relative to sound even more natural and fluent. All of my previous live lessons are on my YouTube channel. All you need to do, just go to my TikTok profile, where you can find all the information about the books, about the schedule, about my YouTube channel, about me, and so on. Or if you don't understand something, you can send me a message on TikTok. I will. Okay, let's move on. The cake she baked tasted like lemons. Exactly, the which, right? Which or that. wedge in brackets because we can omit it. Exactly, if we use the zero relative. Since here are some people that struggle with relative words, today I wanted to practice relative words as well, starting from the relative words, and then we can move on to the zero relative when we can skip those words. Okay? But yes, we can remove which here. The singer won the show is from Italy. Who? Excellent. The singer who or that won the show is from Italy. Thank you, Mindel. Excellent. Yeah, we can use both. He's the neighbor. Dog never stops barking. Whose? Very well done. Whose? Number 12. The man I met at the party is a lawyer. The man who or that. Excellent. Omar, Shabani, Mar, Efio, Nurse, Casey Baby. Who or that? The waiter served us was very polite. Oh, thank you, Dee, very much. Who that? That. Who that? Okay. I don't like food. It's too spicy. Excellent. Which or that? This is the author books I love to read. What do you think? Exactly, Nurse. Thank you. Who's Casey? Omar. Mindel. Very well done. His books, right? Or her books. The manager to You Should Speak is in her office. Okay, guys. Now I want you firstly use the correct preposition here. Okay, which is more yes, which or that, because I prefer, well, that is commonly used. However, well, in American English, they always use that. But both of them are correct. It's optional. You can use which, you can use that. However, guys, we don't use what as a relative pronoun, never, okay? It's another topic when we can use what, but not with the relative clauses. Whom, very well done, whom. Why? Because we have preposition to here, to. The manager to whom you should speak is in her office. Now, guys, I want you to rephrase this sentence using that or who and drop it in the comments. Okay? Just a 2 minutes break, and you can rephrase this sentence using that or who. I'll be back in 2 minutes, okay? Just let me get some water. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, the manager to whom you should speak to, who you should speak to is in her office. Excellent. Very well done. The manager who you should speak to is in his office. And exactly the same goes with that, right? The manager that you should speak to is in his office. Very well done. What about the cat? Okay, the cat that's well done, Mindel, that, right? That or which. The cat that lives in the garden is very friendly. And again, guys, all the rules, all the relative words we are using right now, we are talking about defining relative clause, okay? not non-defining relative clause. Only defining. These sentences provide essential information, okay? Students study hard, usually get good grades. Students study hard, usually get good grades. Mindel, that exactly. Color with verb. Who, very well done. Who or that, both are correct. So again, guys, it's all about defining relative clause, because with non-defining, if it was non-defining relative clause, we could not use that, and we should add commas, okay? No that with non-defining. That's why I'm telling you that it's defining relative clause, so we can use that instead of who and instead of which. That is the boy whose father, well done, Mindel, works at the bank. Number 20, the friend with the friend with, well done, Shabani. Color with verb, exactly. Mindel, it's whom, right? Is it Sechina Cosmetics? Well done, whom, right? But what about if we want to use who or that? How would you say that with who or that? I mean, this sentence. Can anyone write the sentence with who or that? Color with verb, excellent. Exactly. We have the preposition at the beginning, right? Now let's use who or that in this sentence. How we can structure it if we put who or that here. That or who. And again, guys, thank you for the likes, for the shares, for the follows, for just being here. The friend who I went the friend who I went with to the cinema. It's another story, right? To the cinema. This preposition belongs to the cinema, right? So we still need with the friend with, the friend who I went with to the cinema is called Sam. or the friend who went with me to the cinema. Well, the friend who went with me to the cinema. It's better to say the friend who I went with to the cinema. Okay, it's called Sam. Very well done. CXKGF. Sorry, I don't know your name. Exactly, the friend that I went with to the cinema. Very well done. Okay, number 22. The lady house is on the corner is very kind. The lady whose house, right? Whose house is on the corner is very kind. Whose, excellent. He's the artist painted the mural in the hall. That or who, right? Both are correct. And 24, the people I invited to the party arrived late. The people I just mean whom. In this sentence, we can use whom, we can use who, and we can use that. The people whom I invited to the party arrived late. The people that I invited to the party arrived late. The people who I invited to the party arrived late. It's up to you. Okay? Okay. Now we have two separate sentences. That's how we start learning English, right? We use short, separate sentences. Now I want you to combine these two sentences into one longer sentence using defining relative clause and relative words. Like here, I met a girl, the girl is beautiful. I met a girl who is beautiful. I saw a movie. The movie was very scary. I saw a movie. The movie was very scary. Okay. Well, yeah, but I want you to write the full sentence, but because if I just put that here, the sentence won't be correct. We cannot say, I saw a movie that the movie was very scary. I need the whole sentence, full sentence. I saw a movie and the movie was very scary. Sachina Cosmetics, very well done. I saw a movie which was very scary, or that was very scary. It just mean I saw a movie and the movie was very scary. Yeah, that's how we start learning English, right? We use either and or separate sentences. So these words, relative clauses, help us combine two short sentences, make our sentence longer to sound more natural and fluent, right? Elisa, I saw a movie which was very scary. Well done, Elisa. That was very scary. Excellent. Very well done, Jasmine. Both we can use which as well as that, right? It's up to you. I saw a movie. I saw a movie that or which was very scary. Number 2, that is the man's car was stolen. Excellent, Elisa. Very well done. You're very welcome. Excellent. That is the man whose car was stolen. Number 3, this is the restaurant. We ate dinner at this restaurant. This is a restaurant where we ate dinner, right? This is the restaurant where we ate dinner. Okay, when it comes, guys, to when we use the relative word where, the relative word where, this word replaces place, and preposition. Such as in, at, on, etc. When we use where, we don't need place and the preposition anymore, okay? When we use where. So this is the restaurant where we ate dinner. We don't need preposition anymore, okay? Because where already replaces preposition and the place. Okay? So again, where equals place and preposition, okay? This is the restaurant where includes the place, the restaurant, and the preposition where we ate yesterday. Okay? So every time you see where, you already know that you can skip the preposition and the place. However, guys, we know that I call that the king of the relative words. The king. The king. Why? Because that can replace almost all of the relative words. Almost all the relative words. We can even use that instead of where. But when we use that instead of where, then we need preposition, okay? With when where equals place and preposition, that replaces only place, but not preposition, okay? So if I wanted to use here that instead of where, then I need a preposition. So when we use where, we skip preposition, right? This is the restaurant where we ate dinner. If I use that, then I need preposition. This is a restaurant that we ate dinner at. If we use that. So it's always easier to use where because, you know, when you use where, you don't worry about the prepositions, about the place, because where replaces the place and the preposition. But if you want to use that, then you should follow the structure, okay? If you use that, then you should use these prepositions. Okay? This is the restaurant where we ate dinner. You are very welcome, Tatiana. Number 4. I remember the day we graduated on that day. I missed yesterday's live. No worries, I'm going to upload yesterday's and today's live lessons on YouTube. I remember the day when we graduated. Well done, Elisa. CLI. I remember the day we graduated. Well done, you used the zero relative, right? Jan, I remember the day when we graduated. Excellent. I remember the day when we... And guys, the same goes with when, okay? When replaces time and the preposition. When replaces time and preposition like on, in, at. However, good news, we can use that instead of when, but the structure doesn't change. I told you that with where, when we replace where with that, we should use preposition at the end. With when, we don't use preposition. Even if we replace when with that, we don't need preposition. I remember the day when we graduated. I remember the day that we graduated. Okay? However, it's always more natural with when, where, and why to use these words instead of that. Okay? Yes, you can use that, but I don't know. I always prefer using when, where, and why instead of that. Okay? I remember the day when we graduated. Very well done, Jasmine. Number 5. The teacher is kind. The teacher helped me with my homework. Okay, the teacher. Well done, Alyssa. Casey, the teacher who showed me kindness and also helped me with my homework. Okay, the kind teacher helped me with my homework. Okay, so the thing I want you to remember the sentences like they are and follow certain structures and rules is that when we practice and when we do some exercises and follow the rules, our brain remembers them, and then when you want to build your own sentences, it would be easier to understand how to structure the sentence. Okay, so the teacher is kind. The teacher helped me with my homework. The teacher who helped me is kind. the teacher who helped me. So maybe there are lots of teachers. For example, why we should follow the certain structure. The teacher. Now we need essential information to make the listener understand who we are talking about. The teacher who helped me. This is essential information, okay? Why? Because imagine there are lots of teachers, but the only one helped you. Okay? So the one teacher, that specific teacher who helped me is very kind. This information is essential to identify someone. So usually this sentence follows the subject or the noun. The teacher who helped me, essential information, is very kind. Imagine there are lots of teachers, okay? If we only say the teacher is very kind and there are lots of teachers, the listener won't understand who are you talking about. We need essential information. So the teacher who helped me is very kind. Okay? Who helped me is very kind. This information is essential. Always think of it like that. If I remove this information, can the listener understand who I am talking about? If not, then you need defining a relative clause that provides essential information. Okay, another example. Imagine you are watching a football game with your friend, okay? There are lots of boys playing football, and you tell your friend, the boy is my boyfriend. The boy is my boyfriend. Can your friend understand which boy is your boyfriend? Who are you talking about? Which one? The boy is my boyfriend. No essential information. The listener might be confused. Which one? There are lots of boys playing football. Which boy, right? Now, if I add defining relative clause, even if there was a boy or the boy, it's difficult to understand which boy you are talking about, the boy or that boy, even that boy. Which one? unless you approach the boy, you should come here and say this one or this one, right? Here we need defining relative. We need here defining relative clause that provides essential information. I just want you to give an idea how relative clause, defining relative clause works, okay? So now I'm gonna add essential information and let's see now if you understand who I'm talking about. The boy standing next to the goalkeeper is my boyfriend. Let's say, who is standing? Or who's talking? Okay. The boy who is standing next to the goalkeeper, this one is a goalkeeper, right? Is my boyfriend. Can you understand now which one is my boyfriend? The boy who is standing next to the goalkeeper is my boyfriend. This is a defining relative clause, okay? That works like a passport. It helps us identify a person, a thing, an animal, a place, or time. This information helps us and helps the listener identify who we are talking about or which person we are talking about. Another example from the book. Okay. The phone is a new model. Can you guess which phone I mean? The phone is a new model. No, right? There are many phones, but we don't have essential information to identify which one is a new model. We need essential information, right? Now let's add essential information, defining relative clause. The phone that costs 1,500 is a new model. The phone that costs 1,500 is a new model. Here we have defining relative clause. We have a relative pronoun, a relative word, that helps us combine two sentences to make it longer, to sound more natural and fluent, right? And of course, to provide essential information, to make the listener understand which phone we are talking about. So think of a defining relative clause like a passport, right? Because without our passport, we cannot be identified. Everything needs, everyone and everything needs a passport. Even my fridge has a passport. My cat has a passport, right? So we have defining relative clauses for animals that we use that and which. We have defining relative clause. We can use defining relative clause for people, animals, things, places, time, and so on. The phone that costs 1,500 is a new model. Now we know that this one is a new model. Okay? That's how defining relative clauses work. Later, when we finish all the rules and structures about defining relative clauses, then we're going to learn non-defining relative clauses, okay? Okay, let's carry on with the exercise 12. Number 6, I don't know the reason. He left early for that reason. I don't know the reason. He left early for that reason. I don't know the reason he left early. Okay, I don't know the reason, one sentence, he left early. We have two short sentences. Now we need a relative word to combine these two sentences and turn it into the relative clause, to turn it into the longer sentence, because here we have two sentences, right? I don't know the reason, one sentence. He left early, two sentences, right? That's how we start learning English, right? We use short, separate sentences. If we want to make longer sentences, and instead of these two sentences use one longer sentence, we should combine these two sentences and use the the relative word. And excellent, Tatiana. I don't know the reason why he left early. Жемчужина. I don't know the reason why he left early. Excellent. why he left early. Mimi Janara. Very well done. So, I don't know the reason why he left. Why? Okay. Number 7. These are people. These are the people. I traveled with these people. Anonymous is why a relative pronoun. Well, it's not. It's a relative adverb. But guys, you don't need to memorize all of those complicated grammar terms. Okay? Exactly, it's a relative adverb. You can just call them relative words. Okay? These are people. Yeah, these are people who I traveled with. Excellent. Tatiana. If we use the zero relative, right? When we skip relative words. Tomorrow we are going to do the exercises only, well, not only, but mostly on the zero relative, when and how we can skip the relative words. If you are new here, you can go to my YouTube channel where I explained all the rules when it comes to the zero relative, right? When we skip these words. Today, we should use them to memorize all of the relative words, okay? So these are people who, or that, or the zero relative, I traveled with, okay? These are people who are Muhammad, you don't need are here, these are people who I traveled with, okay? These are the people who I traveled with. You're very welcome. Okay, number 8. I bought a laptop. The laptop has a silver cover. Excellent, Casey. The laptop I bought has a silver cover. Or the laptop that I bought has a silver cover. Well done, Casey. Tatiana, I bought a laptop that has a silver cover. Okay. Jemchujina, I bought a laptop that has a silver cover. Well done, Mohammed. Excellent. Yeah. Or you can just say the laptop. Well, it always depends on the context, right? You can move words around as you like, but we should follow some structures and rules, right? Or you can just say the laptop I bought has a silver cover. Or I bought a laptop that has a silver cover. Well done, Jasmine. The laptop I bought has a silver cover. She's the neighbor. I borrowed the neighbor's ladder. Okay, or we can use whose right here. Okay. Amphio, very well done. She's the neighbor whose ladder I borrowed. The neighbor. Well done, Jemchurjana. She's the neighbor whose ladder I borrowed, right? So we can use just whose to sound more natural and say whose ladder. No worries, Jasmine. Whose ladder, right? Muhammad, whose ladder? Because it's neighbor's ladder. It's his or her, right? It's his or her. So when we need his or her, we can replace with the relative word whose. Okay? And say whose ladder. Also because you can see now apostrophe and s. It's his or her. So we can use whose instead of his and her and say she's the neighbor. She's the neighbor whose ladder I borrowed. Okay. Okay, we are almost at the end. 3 more to write. Number 10. This is the park. I often walk my dog in this park. Okay, Casey. This is the park. Is a place. Right? In formal speech, we can use which, but we need preposition at the beginning. It's a bit different structure. Okay, so it's always better, especially in casual conversations, to use where when we want to replace place and the preposition. Can you use where in this sentence? I have problem when I speak English because I'm freeze. CLA, excellent. This is a park where I often walk my dog. This is a park where I often walk my dog. Great. 2 more sentences. 1969 was the year. The first man walked on the moon then. Very well done, Jemtuzhina. Excellent. "1969 was the year when the first man walked on the moon." Okay, and the last one for today. The waiter was friendly. The waiter served our drinks. Very well done, CLI. Very well done, Jemchujina. Excellent. The waiter who served our drinks was friendly. Very well done. Okay, guys, that's it for today. And I'll see you tomorrow. So tomorrow is a Friday, and I'm going to go on live at 8 a.m. in the morning, European time, right? Tomorrow. Usually I go on live at 10:30, but tomorrow I'm going to go on live at 9:30 a.m. in the morning, European time, okay? And of course, if you are new here, if you are a first-time listener, there are my previous live lessons on my YouTube where you can watch, or maybe you already were attending my previous classes, but you want to rewatch those live lessons. That'd be excellent. Okay. Where you can find all about the zero relative, all about the basics for beginners when it comes to the relative clauses. You can find their books and the materials I'm using during our live lessons in my profile. All about my TikTok live schedule in my profile. And new courses are starting from the end of the May, from the June. All the information you can find in my profile. Or if you cannot find it, just send me a message. I'll provide you with additional information. Okay? It's been lovely being here with you. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for the likes, for the shares, for the follows. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you. And yeah, have a nice rest of the day. Take care. See you tomorrow. Bye.